this one is still one that I don't know a lot about. I'm real good at this. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my January haul. I don't know what that was. So as I'm sure you can hear, I'm still doing the under the weather thing. If you saw my wrap up, I probably mentioned it. I was on the front end of it and now I'm on the back end of it. So it's great. But we have lots of books to talk about because per usual, I have an addiction and I just buy all the things. So I always think I'm doing so well at not buying things, and then I sit down to film this video and it just is ridiculous. And in true us fashion, we went to the book warehouse that's near us. So that's where a lot of this stuff is. We have some books that Chris picked up. We've got some books that I picked up. We have subscription box books. We've got some pre-orders that have started to come in for 2023. So let's dive right in. So the first two books are the ones that I put in my most recent Fairy Loot unboxing. So this is for both November and December. I did like a double unboxing at the beginning or kind of in the middle of January. So feel free to check that out if you haven't already, but these are those two books. The first one is the November book, and that is The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. I'm not really sure what I'm going to get into with this one. It follows our main character, Ranika, who is part of a coven. It sounds like she's got like this power, this magic that compels her to kill. So she just kind of wants to hang out with her coven away from everybody else. And they actually like name her what is called the next treaty bride for the human kingdom. So basically she's supposed to go to the human kingdom and marry their future king, but it says here that her single directive is actually to kill him, which again shouldn't be a problem with her magic. But she gets there and discovers that the king, or the prince that's going to be king, is super kind, super nice, and does not want to be king in the slightest. And so she's having a hard time with that. And then I think his sister's the one who's like the actual powerful one that could possibly be a great ruler. And they like strike up a bargain of like, but I think there's some like people who show up murdered in the kingdom and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So it feels like somewhat of a murder mystery. I'm not really sure what we're going to be getting into with this one. Again, per usual in Kelsey fashion, I had never heard of this book until I saw it in my Fairy Loot. So I'm very excited about this. Per usual, if you've heard anything, let me know. And then the December book looks stunning, and that is Cruel Illusions, and this is by Margie Fuston. And this one is just, again, probably one of the most beautiful books I've received in a Fairy Loot at this point, and it gives you like Buffy Vampire Slayer vibes. We follow our main character Ava, whose mother was murdered by a vampire, and she's determined to get revenge. But it's been 10 years, and she's survived a foster home, or she's moved from foster home to foster home, and there's zero sighting of a vampire, and so she's starting to lose hope. But then she stumbles across this hidden magic show where she witnesses impossible illusions, and the magicians may not be the bloodsuckers she's hunting, but she's convinced something supernatural is afoot. So I think she gets involved with them. I'm not really sure, but it seems very circusy, I think, just because with, you know, the magic show and that kind of thing, but also like it has a vampire element to it. So maybe she becomes a vampire hunter. I don't really know what's going to happen there, but it looks beautiful, and I'm very excited about that one. The next two I got from a Barnes & Noble sale. Per usual, I am so good about holding out on buying things from Barnes & Noble until like the last day of the sale, and then I just look to see what's there and then end up getting things. So the first one is called The Last Flight, and this is by Julie Clark. So this author wrote a book, The Lies I Tell, which is a book that I got from Book of the Month but also read last year and really, really enjoyed. And so I looked into other things by this author, and this is one that I feel like these are the only two books that she's written, or the only two that like sounded really interesting at this point. And so I decided to go ahead and pick up a just fun little paperback copy. It says here at the very top, 2 women, 2 flights, 1 last chance to disappear. So this follows 2 women, like I said at the beginning. We follow Claire, whose husband is super ambitious and real nice, you know, up front, but behind closed doors, he's got a really bad temper, and he has his staff tracking Claire's every single move. So she has decided, she's worked for months on a plan to just vanish and get away from him. And so she runs into this other woman, Ava, at the airport, and they both have like plans to run away. So they decide what to do is to switch tickets and switch lives. So Ava goes as Claire to Puerto Rico, and Claire goes as Ava to Oakland. However, the Puerto Rican flight crashes and Ava ends up dying. So Claire's options, basically, she just has to assume Ava's identity and figure out what's going on from there. And then it says right here, the secrets Ava fought so hard to keep hidden. So some stuff might be coming out of the woodworks from Ava's past that Claire has to pretend to be her. I don't really know, but the very psychological, not psychological, but like domestic thriller vibes that I very much enjoyed from her other book, I'm just really interested to see if her writing really translates different book-wise, you know? I don't know, it just sounds so good. So I picked that one up. And then the other one that I got from the Barnes & Noble sale was another paperback, and that's just Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass. Well, third if you're counting the like novella prequel kind of thing, but really the second in the series. And I've been slowly collecting these in paperback just because I do want to read this series. It's one that I kind of didn't really give the time of day, but since I've read Sarah J. Maas's I think I've read everything else that this author has written besides the Throne of Glass series, I really want to give that one my time of day. And like I see all of these really cool hints to the series that sound interesting and I want to know what they're about, so I'm slowly collecting it. I think this is the year that I'm going to at least start this series. I know it's a very long series, so I'm just slowly collecting them whenever I see them on sale, and I do want the paperback versions of them. So this was just the next one that I didn't have, so I picked that one up. The next one is just a fun little book that my husband got for Christmas. We did a Christmas exchange with some of our friends from college, and so we did it at the beginning of November, or the beginning of January, and this was his, and it's called The Book of Unusual Knowledge, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a collection of like the randomest trivia. And one thing that you might not know about my husband, because it probably doesn't come across in the videos that we've done, is he has, I don't even understand how his brain works, but it's like a genius brain. Like he can pull out trivia like it's no joke. And he always knows what he calls useless trivia, in the sense of like, who would ever need to know that? I don't know, but he does, like that kind of stuff. So one of our friends got him this book of just the randomest things. Like at the bottom here it says, it took 30 million hours for Stonehenge workers to build Stonehenge. So it's really bizarre, and they're really like short segments of like the randomest things. You've got like a history section. It sounds really like up his alley. Like if you knew him, you would know that this is like very much him. So this is a book that we have collected. There's not even an author, so I can't even tell you anything about this. But yeah, this is very much him, and I just think it's just perfect. The next one is my very first of the pre-orders that came in, and that is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This is the first, I think this is her very first step into the YA genre. I think she's only ever written adult stuff. I want to read this author's entire works. I've started it. I loved the Brown Sisters trilogy. It's still one of my favorite series of all time, romances of all time. Like, I just love that series so much. So I'm very interested to see what she's going to do with a YA book. This one follows our two main characters, Bradley and Celine. And Bradley is the star football player. He manages his OCD, so we've got some OCD rep in here. And he's at the top of his class, except for the one class that he shares with Celine. So in her mind, they used to be really good friends until he just like left her to be with the popular crowd, and she's not gotten over it. And they end up both signing up for the same adventure course. I can't remember what it's called. It's a 2-part survival course in the woods. That's what it's called. And they end up having to team up together. So I think some stuff is going to come out between the two of them. I think that there are some things that like they just need to discuss, and being in the woods with nobody else is probably going to make them do that. I love Talia Hibbert. She's such a fun writer, and I can't, like I said, I can't wait to see what she's going to do with a YA romance. And it just looks so fun and cute, and yeah. I love her. I'll read anything by her. Now we're getting into all of the books that we picked up from our secondhand bookshop. So the next three are the ones that Chris picked up there. They're all nonfiction. We're surprised. The first one is The Divine Miss Marble, A Life of Tennis, Fame, and Mystery by Robert Weintraub. This follows Marble, I can't remember her name, Alice Marble, who was a 1930s icon in sports and celebrity. And I don't really know, but this book dives into who she was, her public life versus her private life. I'm thinking there was probably a lot more to her than just well, there's always a lot more than just the sports persona that's given out there, but I feel like with the mystery element there, the title makes me think that there's probably a little bit more to it. But this is a memoir following her, and honestly, like, I would never have picked this up, but because Chris picked it up, I'm a little interested. I feel like that's pretty normal. He picks up books and sometimes I'm like, I would read that. And this was definitely one of those. It gives me like Golden Age of Hollywood vibes. Like, I know that's not it. It's very different, but I feel like that is the vibe that this book is giving off, and I want to know what this mystery is. So we got a sports book. We are so shocked. Actually, all of these are sports books. The next one is The Girls of Summer, the U.S. Women's Soccer Team and How It Changed the World by Jeree Longman. I feel like this one is very self-explanatory. It follows the U.S. Women's Soccer Team. My husband's a huge fan of soccer. I feel like that has been very evident in the types of books that we have collected over the years. He loves soccer. And because he loves soccer, I have started to love soccer, which is very fun. But this one I think dives into the team and talks about a very small part of history where they, changed the world. Maybe won some World Cups, maybe did some, not World Cups, but you know what I mean, won some prestige awards and that kind of stuff. So that's the other one he got. And the very last book that he got was a book about Roger Federer. This one's called Quest for Perfection, and it's by Renee Stauffer. And this book is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a memoir of sorts following Roger Federer. And Chris really likes Roger Federer. I mean, out of the sports that he loves, soccer is definitely number one. And the other ones that he really likes are football and tennis. I mean, like, he'll watch pretty much any sport. But, like, if he had to rate, like, his favorites, those would definitely be up there. He is a huge fan of tennis as well. And the fact that Roger Federer recently retired, I think, has got, like, him on his brain, So when he found this, he was very excited. I think this is one that he's been looking for a while as well, just like to kind of keep in the back of his brain as well. So, yeah, that's just another sports memoir, which just feels very him, And then getting into the books that I picked up from the book warehouse, I'll start with my 2 nonfiction as well, just to kind of put all the nonfiction together. The first one's called The Marriage Bureau, and it's by Penrose Howson, and it's a true story of how 2 matchmakers arranged love in wartime London. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It follows 2 women, Heather and Mary, who decided to open a marriage bureau during the Second World War. It says here on the back that the author found herself proprietor of this bureau, and so she decides to tell their story and the story of their clients. And I think every single chapter is a different pairing that they kind of matched up. So it just sounds like really fun. It sounds really cute. It sounds like one of those stories that's very kind of uplifting. I'm not a huge fan of books. Huge fan is not the right word. I try to steer clear of books that are set in like a World War setting, just because a lot of them, I feel like World Wars 1 and 2, especially the historical fiction vein, is used often, and so they're always just kind of downers, which, again, war, I get it. But this is one that's set at that time. It's a real story, which A, is even better, and B, it's more uplifting. It's about people finding, like, their person. So I thought that would be so cute, so I picked that one up. And then the other one was in the true crime section, and it's called Mrs. Sherlock Holmes, and it's by Brad Ricca, and it's the true story of New York City's greatest female detective and the 1917 missing girl case that captivated a nation. So, again, exactly what it sounds like. This book follows a woman named Grace Humiston, maybe? She's a lawyer detective and the first woman U.S. district attorney. And so she basically, like, finds this case of a missing girl and goes hunting. And it's really, like, her story. And I just think that sounds really, really cool. So some historical true crime, which is honestly some of my favorite true crime. All right, the next one is a novella that I picked up, and that is Beautiful Bombshell, and it's part of the Beautiful Bastards series by Christina Lauren. This one, I think, takes place between books like 2 and 3. It's one of the later novellas, but it follows our main characters, I think, from the first 2 books. We follow Bennett and Chloe, who were the couple in the first book, and then another one, it follows this guy named Max, and I think that he's the one from the second one. But basically, this is a, like, bachelor weekend. Bennett's bachelor weekend, and he takes his friends Max and this guy named Will. So they go on this bachelor weekend, but Bennett and Will find ways to rendezvous with, like, their women, and Will is the single one and not okay with it. So it sounds like just, like, a very quick story of like the bachelorette weekend, bachelor/bachelorette weekend. I don't really know, but it's part of the series, so I picked it up and it was relatively cheap. So I'm hoping to collect all of them. So I just got that one because that was the only one that was there that I didn't have. The next three are all part of the same series, and that is these three by Nora Roberts, and these are part of the Gallagher's and Ardmore trilogy. So we have Jewels of the Sun, which you will have seen because I'm planning on reading it this month. Then we have Tears of the Moon, and the last book, Heart of the Sea. And these are just these beautiful, I'm obsessed with these covers. I think they're stunning. My other series by Nora Roberts is very similar in this vein as far as like having step backs that aren't kind of like different than your normal step backs, but I think these are stunning. So it follows the three brothers who basically are, I think, in charge of this pub in Ireland and their respective romances. So I actually don't know a whole lot about these. I picked the first one for a very specific reason, but they had all of them there. So I was like, it's set in Ireland. I've loved the book that I read by Nora Roberts, so let's just go ahead and get them all. So that is what I did. But they match. Aren't they beautiful? They're stunning, okay? But yes, I'm planning on reading the first one in February. I then picked up the first volume of a manga, and that is Cutie and the Beast. And this one is by, oh no, Yuhi Azumi, I think. So this is a book that I swear all my like manga recommendations come from Princess of Paperback. I just like love her stuff, and so whenever she has good romance, specifically manga recommendations, I usually will give them a shot. So this is the first volume, and I've had this one kind of on my radar for a while. I just never really saw it around, and so when I saw it there, I was like, yes, I'll get that, and also it's cheaper. So this one is, I think it's supposed to be somewhat of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but like not, and like not really. So we follow our main two characters. We have Momoka, I think, and Kuga. And Kuga is a huge pro wrestler who plays a villainous heel on TV, and she is a huge fangirl. But it says here that he's like a tough guy on TV, but he's got a softer side in real life, as they usually do. And she writes him fan mail, and it touches him in ways he didn't expect. And I think there might be like an actual romance that blossoms between the two of them. It just sounds really, really cute. So I'm excited to see what this one's like. I only have the first volume, so I'm hoping for good things, but I had to pick that one up because, again, I hadn't seen it literally anywhere, and so I was very excited to see it there. So the next few are my historical romances I picked up because we all know I couldn't go there without getting at least one, and I only got a handful, so like we did better than usual. And the first one is this one, which is a collection, and it is the Further Observations of Lady Whistledown, and it's by a handful of authors, including Julia Quinn, Suzanne Enoch, Karen Hawkins, and Mia Ryan. And it's literally exactly what it sounds like. It's 4 short stories that all deal with Lady Whistledown in some way. So like it's not directly connected to the Bridgerton series, but it's kind of like a little bit connected, you know? And so I want to read all things Bridgerton, so of course I had to pick this one up. I hadn't seen this one there, I think, ever, actually. This is probably the first time I saw it, so I definitely had to pick that up. It's just a collection of short stories, Regency romances. And then the next two are the last 2 books that were part of the Highland Guard novel series that I didn't have. So the first one is The Hawk, which you guys will have already seen because I'm planning on reading this one in February. Actually, I'm starting this one today as of filming. And then The Raider. These again are just the next 2. This is the second, and this one I think is like the 7th or something like that. This is a series that follows this guy named Robert of Bruce who is on a quest to free Scotland from England. So he collects all, or he kind of like, yeah, I guess collects is the right word. He brings all of these Scottish warriors together, and they all have to do something specific. So they all each get a like nickname, if you will, the Hawk, the Raider, that kind of stuff. And so these are just a couple of books that are in this series that I'm reading with my friend Taylor. We're reading 1 book a month, and I'm very excited. So now I have all of them. I've rounded out the entire series. I own them all, and I am very excited. So just picked up the last 2. I couldn't believe it, honestly, that like the 2 that I needed were there. It was like almost serendipitous. And then the very last book, well, the last book that's a historical romance. Actually, the last book that I got there, this rounds out the Book Warehouse haul, is the first in the Sons of St. Clair series by Heather McColcomb, and that is Highland Conquest. Do I know what these are about? No, these are 100% cover buys for me. So it just follows the Sinclair clan and their Highland romances. I feel like I don't really need to explain more than that because those are all of my buzzwords, but it just sounds like fun. I don't know how to explain it, but I've had the second and the third one for a while, and I couldn't find the first one to save my life, but I found it finally. So yeah, I picked up number 2. Okay, and then we just have a quick handful of books. The next one is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. I talked about this in my wrap-up as well as the vlog that I did about like books that I meant to read last year and didn't. I picked this one up because I loved it so much. This is the second in a duology that follows basically a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet set in 20s Shanghai, but with rival clans. And the first book, our two main characters, Roma and Juliet, are the daughter and son, the heirs of the two heads of the rival gangs, and their gang members show up, just keep dying, and they think it's the other one, and then after a while they realize it's happening to both of their clans, so they end up teaming up together to try to figure out what's going on. And this is just the next book after it, and I didn't pick it up because I mean, the first one was just okay in my mind, but then when I read this one, I fell head over heels, and so I obviously needed to get my own copy, so I did. I bought it. It's amazing. And then the next one you'll have seen because it's already on my TBR, and that is Mr. Perfect on Paper by Jean Meltzer. This is the other book that's currently out by this author who wrote The Matzo Ball that I fell head over heels in love with. And I really want to get to this one in February because she has a book coming out later this year, and I feel like she's going to be an author that I love, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't like a one-time thing before I invested in the new book. And I'm currently reading it. I'm not very far as filming this, but I'm planning on getting through a little bit more of this. But it basically follows our main character, Dara, who is the creator and CEO of this app called JMate, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a matchmaking app for Jews. And so she and her grandmother, her Bubba, go on air with this guy named Chris, who is like, Dara loves him. She loves his TV show, and he's kind of struggling for ratings. And so they go on his show, and her Bubba basically like presents her list of like the perfect Jewish husband. And because of that, they basically start creating this segment on the show where they're going to try to, like, Chris is going to, hopefully by bumping up ratings, he's going to try to help her find her, like, perfect person. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be really cute. So I picked that one up. And then my other pre-order that came in this month was Lost in a Moment and Found by Shauna McGuire. This is the 8th book in the Wayward Children's series. This follows in a world where, like, kids go through doors, and it's, like, the door that's perfect for them and brings them to the world that's perfect for them. But then sometimes their doors and their worlds kick them out and send them back to the place where they came from. So they end up going to this place called the Miss Eleanor's School for Wayward Children or something like that. And it's basically, she went through a door when she was younger, so she understands what that's like. And it's a place for them to kind of like hang out where they can still be themselves. And then like if they're waiting on their door, then they can wait on their door there, or they can try to reacclimate themselves to society, whatever they want to do. It's kind of like, you are believed at this school, so like you do what you need to do. And this book follows a girl named Nancy, and this is one of the books that takes place in world. Some books take place at the school, and some books take place in the individual worlds, and this is one of the ones that take place in a world. So about Nancy, and as kind of like why she leaves her home, why she goes to this world, what this world looks like, and then whether or not she accidentally gets kicked back into the present, like into her like original, quote unquote, original world. So I love this author so much. So that's had to add it to the long list. I've got all of the books in this series at this point. And then the very last book that I got, or that came in the mail for January, is the second book in the Daughter of the Moon Goddess series, Heart of a Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. I got this beautiful Fairy Loot edition to match the beautiful one that I got from the first book. In the first book, we followed the Daughter of the Moon Goddess, obviously, and she kind of goes on this quest. She gets kicked out of like the place where she was living with her mother and ends up having to kind of create a life for herself in a way, and then like things happen, and this is kind of the next step for her. I will say like the first book had an ending, so if you felt like you were good with the first story, you probably it's got an ending in a way that like you don't need to go on, but because it's a duology, I definitely wanted to continue, and I want to see what the next one's going to look like. I'm excited. I've heard that this one is going to be more focused on, there's kind of like a love triangle a little bit in this series, and the first book did kind of set that up, but it also told you about the world more, and this one I've heard focuses more on the love aspects and like the relationship aspects of our characters, so I'm interested to see how that's going to go, because I'm not the biggest fan of love triangles, but we'll see what happens. And there's definitely some big cliffhangers and big stuff that was revealed at the last book. So I'm definitely excited to dive in, but my beautiful Fairy Loot edition came and I'm so excited. It's just so pretty. And that's it. Those are all of the books that I picked up in January. My voice has proceeded to disappear throughout this video, so I do apologize, but I hope that you guys enjoyed. As per usual, please let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, or if there was a book that you got in January that you're just so excited about. Please let me know. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!